Megumi. Strong? In the same sentence? What's up, guys? Hello, Pencil. You're here to do a breakdown, so it's live reaction and review to Eternal Flames. How strong is Megumi Fushiguro, or Megumi Fushiguro, at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen? Now, this one is something I'm interested in. I want to do flames, and I want to do hundreds. I'm doing flames first, because he's my glorious kid. But I want to do flames first, because it's shorter, and typically, it's easier for me to react to shorter videos, because I only triple their length. This means it'll be 45 minute. This will be a 45-minute video because this video is 14 minutes and 29 seconds long. And also, I'm interested mainly because I want to see how the two cover it. I want to see how those two cover it before I cover it, because gosh darn, I'm scared, because Megumi Fushiguro is the headcanon king at the end of this series. Like, really, the man could be swole, he could not be swole, he really hasn't fought, like, officially fought anybody in, like, years. Like, what? It was Reggie, and Reggie was years ago at this point, so I'm excited to see how Flames about to break it down. So let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Editing me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do this. No. I have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Here's another fun fact. I like to yap. I warned you in the intro, kind of, sort of, kind of, maybe, kind of a little bit, trying to keep your guard up, but I do like to yap, essentially. So the link to the original video will be in the description down below, along with a link to Eternal Flames' channel. He's a glorious individual. I literally need to react. Like, he's made so many what ifs. I'm out here trying to catch up my live reactions on his Toji what if, because that's the first one I ended up covering. And he's got a Yuki one, he's got a blood manipulation one, he has so many different ones. So I'm gonna try and live react to all of those, because gosh darn, Flame can cook, gosh darn it. So I want to make sure I catch up to all those. But if you don't want to wait for those live reactions, please, the link to his channel will be in the description down below, and the link to the original video. Go check him out. Go peep. Fantastic content creator. Covers mostly JJK stuff. He said he's going to start covering other stuff on the channel too. Can't wait till he starts doing that. It's always fun to see other creators go into other different topics and branches. So I'm excited. But let's not waste any more time. Let's actually hop right into it. But psych! I got to get my own thoughts on Megumi at the end of the series before I let Flame start cooking. And Megumi, he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. But I think, right? I'll do two versions of it. I'll do three. We'll go with nothing changed Megumi. We'll go with full potential, everything changed Megumi, and we'll go with middle ground Megumi. For the lowest one, he's as strong as he was at the time of the Reggie fight, because nothing really changed. He was soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy, but unlike Yuji, who got training to take advantage of the fact that he was soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy, and had numerous black flashes to eventually unlock Sukuna's technique, Megumi kind of just is the same guy. He was steeped in evil. A lot of his soul was left to slumber or rot, essentially. He was just the basis of Sukuna. And while his technique was taken, as Sukuna states, ultimately their techniques are separate, one way or another. If you go with that interpretation that they are literally separate, for some reason when Sukuna took over Megumi's body, a second 10 Shadows technique was born exclusively for Sukuna to use, and he had to go back and remaster everything, even though that's nowhere near implied, because he immediately uses Nue, so they can't be too disconnected. But going with that interpretation, Megumi's literally the exact same guy he was over 100 chapters ago. Or more than 100 chapters ago. Like, the Reggie fight takes place. Actually, is it? It may actually be exactly 100 chapters, because Megumi comes back 269? And then, yeah, it may be 2 chapters, but still, he hasn't changed at all. And around the time of the Reggie fight, he's still like a Shibuya tier character, a relatively high tier Shibuya tier character. But his kit was still Divine Dog, Nue, bada bing, bada boom. They're just a little bit bigger now, so I guess they're a little bit strong. But that's it. It's not even top 15 material, if I'm being honest. Every Sendai character bodies him. Obviously, the Shinjuku characters of any decent note body him. Kashimo bodies him. Like, so many different characters still beat the brakes off that man horribly. He's not top 10. He's not top 15. You may be able to make arguments he's not even top 20. In fact, I think those arguments are pretty solid, because you get to throw in all 4 disaster curses in there. Like, he's real fodder, because we don't count Maharaga as a win, because Maharaga is a double knockout. So, like, bada bing, bada boom. He's really booty me, y'all. Like, all 4 special grades, all the different incarnated sorcerers, except for Reggie and stuff like that. Like, he even in Hazanoki, he gets the brakes beaten off of him. Now, middle tier Megumi is kind of funky, because you have to assume, because his Divine Dog got bigger, all Shikigami got scaled up. How much bigger Divine Dog got, I don't know, I haven't calculated. It looks like he's about like 2 times, maybe 3 times as big, because now he's like bigger than Megumi himself. So Shikigami got bigger, but once again, unless you assume he has but then again, I feel like Remains is kind of for like secret super final Megumi, but if all of a Shikigami got a bit bigger and his curse energy output got a bit higher, it's still kind of hard to place him anywhere because we just don't know how much bigger, how much stronger, how much faster. We just don't know. We just don't know. But assuming he's at least comparable to like the base tiers of pre-Shinjuku Showdown characters or Shinjuku Showdown characters. Let's say he's comparable to like base Akari, right? Because he got a decent chunk stronger, being soaked in evil, more curse energy, more negativity, more of his potential was realized by Sukuna, output raised. Then he's arguably a top 15 character. I still wouldn't put him in top 10. Ultimately, he still likely has an incomplete domain. He still very likely doesn't have a maximum technique. He's still relying on Divine Dog and Nue. Maybe not even Nue. Nue's cooked. Separate technique, right? So go with the separate technique meta, or not meta, just idea. Then technically, maybe he's got Nue, Divine Dog, Max Elephant, but they're bigger. So that's nice. But I still don't think he's beating a Yuji. He's not beating a Maki. He's not beating a Toji. He's not beating a Yuta. He's not beating an Akari. He's not beating anybody. That's the thing. He may have relative stats on the more middle tier thing just because of, increased training, but he's not really all that. In fact, he still probably gets domain diff by a bunch of characters. So like a character like Jogo would still run his fade. A character like Hanami would still run his fade, technically, with a domain at least. Well, Hanami's debatable, but still could hypothetically run his pockets. Jogo would run his pockets. Mahito would run his pockets. Like any character with a decent domain would run his pockets. He gets domain diff still because his domain isn't complete. Bada bing, bada bum. But with that being the case, we have final Megumi. Stupid Megumi, broken Megumi. Now, this is essentially like a full potential Megumi, which I'll probably do my own video on, but this would assume he's got everything. He's got all the 10 shadows unlocked. Even if he just has the remains of Big Raga, and the remains of Ahito, and the remains of Nue, and all that stuff, him and Sukuna's technique are the same. He has a variation of Maharaga. No matter what the totality is, bada bing, bada boom, he has that, which automatically puts him in top 10. Any version of Raga puts somebody in top 10. Like, there are very few characters in the series who have the capacity to just simply one-shot Raga. Like, the only characters I can see doing it kind of sort of are like Ryu, because the scale of his attacks and the fact that unadapted Raga has basically no Dura feats. And I wouldn't even say Yuta, because his love beam is kind of small. But I would say Yuta because things like Jacob's Ladder, same thing with like Hana. Anyone who can immediately shut down the technique, they're good. But anyone else is going to struggle with a base regular Raga, not to talk of a fully fused in Raga or Raga with extra totalities put on top of it. That alone is stupid. If we assume he, like Yuji, got access and understanding of domain from Sukuna using domain a whole bunch in his body, and the fact that Megumi already had a incomplete domain, and then he got Sukuna's mastery of domain applied over his own body, so now he has the muscle memory, then he has a full domain expansion, which means he stops getting domain diff by a bunch of different characters. If you think he has any sort of possible access to Sukuna's technique or some variation of her Sukuna's curse energy lingering inside of him because of what he was made of for so long, a fusion of him and Sukuna, and he was steeped in Sukuna's curse energy and then steeped in evil, then he could hypothetically apply Shrine as well. Like, he could be stupid. Easy top 10. Easy top 10. Possible top 5 discussions if you assume Megumi is correct like that. The only thing that would be a little bit vague are his stats. His, like, actual physical stats. So he could still get, like, blitzed or outdone by a bunch of characters with better stats. Because unlike his techniques or hypothetical techniques, where we can kind of cleanly assume what those are, it's hard to assume how much his very physicals have gotten better. Considering Yuji's physicals only... Then again, Liberated Yuji is essentially equal to Awakened Yuji. And also, Yuji's just different. So I'm not sure if the leaving of Sukuna, like, gave Megumi an accidental liberated amp. If anything, it probably just restored him. But those are my different ideas. Look at this. I'm 8 minutes into the video of a 14-minute and 29-second video, and I'm 0 seconds into the actual video. So let me stop yapping. Let me let Flame cook.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eternal Flame.
Hello. Sorry. Let me not glaze too much. I'll have to be circulating.
Here, and today we are here to talk about what Megumi has access to at the end of JJK. The main reason I'm actually doing this in its own video is because I was doing an entire video that was made to rank all of the characters in JJK who survived and what their levels of power were. However, I was talking about Megumi and I realized I had enough points for it to be its own separate video. Rather than just putting Megumi in that video and like speed running basically all the points, I decided let's just do it all in this one big video about talking about how strong is Megumi at the end of the series. Now, I do also need to note this. Megumi's strength and what he still has access to is kind of a massive debate. Just in general, there are so many questions around how strong Megumi can be, which is why it was such a long section in the video, or at least was going to be until I decided to make it its own video. Now, this is meant to be different from a full potential type video. This is mainly just me wanting to talk about what Megumi can have access to, both on the low end and the high end that we see at the end of the series, so that's what the point of this video is.
Okay. So we're going with middle Megumi. We're going with middle Megumi. I gave those three at the start. We're going with middle Megumi. That makes sense. Like I said, I know no op. He made a full potential Megumi video, but now I wonder if he's gonna do an updated one, because technically full potential Megumi just got even crazier with the Sukuna amp, or hypothetical Sukuna amps. But that's interesting. So essentially, we're gonna see what Flame thinks a more mid-balled Megumi is. Like, you take the summation of what he could have access to or should have access to, and then judge it from there. Because Megumi, I mean, it's weird to call him a technique merchant, because, like, obviously almost every character in the series is a technique merchant, but I'm interested to see how Flame discusses his physicals the most. Because that matters a lot. That matters a lot, especially for Megumi, considering all of his actions require some sort of hand sign. We have yet to see him.
And also me talking about...
We've yet to... we have yet to see him, just attack or summon a Shikigami purely instinctually or something like that. He doesn't do that. So let's say
which one I think is true for the respective reasons. So up first, I'm going to talk about the low end, which is effectively things we can guarantee that are true about Megumi, and then I'm going to go deeper and deeper into what Megumi might possibly have at the end of the series. Now, first, look at the obvious thing out the way, which is the fact that Megumi should still have all of the scaling from before Sukuna had taken over his body. It's not like Sukuna leaving his body would have made Megumi any weaker. If anything, it should have made him stronger, but at worst, you can just say Megumi is just on par with what he was before Sukuna took his body. However, in my opinion, that's just a massive lowball, and honestly probably wrong, considering everything that we have told to us in the series. But if you only want to go off of what we can guarantee, and what we can guarantee as feats, then that is kind of the answer you have as the absolute lowest lowball of where Megumi is at, being still on par with where he was before Sukuna took his body in the Culling games.
Yeah, and I get what he means here, right? Like, and it's the whole conundrum and issue with, like, EOS Megumi. Megumi? Why did I say Megumi? EOS Megumi. Everything we say beyond that is kind of... like, we know he's stronger, but how much so? Right? Like we know he should be stronger just by how the universe works. But, like, how much stronger?
For now, we can go...
It's like the Hikari issue all over again. Okay, you're stronger than Yudokotsu on a roll. By the logic of the universe, that works. But how much stronger, though? How relevant is that? Oh, okay, everyone's defensives got better by the time this interview showed up. How much better? Does that change anything? Like, we just don't know. It's so unquantifiable. So essentially, everything beyond Megumi is the same as he was pre-Shibuya, and his divine dog is bigger. Is legit just straight. It's straight assumption, but in this case, that's all we have. Because Megumi doesn't fight anybody. He doesn't fight anybody. No, and then we aren't gonna get any statements about that. Like, unless Gege himself drops a fan book or something. And which I don't think he is. I think, or they are. I don't think they are, because I remember, like, the special announcement was just like some trailer or something for something, and then, like, the final volume, which apparently is gonna have nothing. It's gonna, like, the final volume is just the final volume of JJK. That's it. When it drops in December, that's it. There's not gonna be anything extra or special in it. So, like, that's it. We're done. We're not getting any more information on Megumi. So we are kind of just in the vague headcanon space, because we'll never get anything else. And I think Gege is just done with the universe too, so we're never gonna know what this man's real full potential would be. We can only speculate. So let's see how Flame speculates.
Into the more guaranteed things that he did get from being the vessel of Sukuna that there isn't really a counter argument against. Up first, his body should have muscle memory of Sukuna using curse energy in his body, and just passively like that, as well as muscle memory from all of the fights that Sukuna had done, which should heavily help with Megumi's control over his curse energy and just advancing with curse energy. After all, we know that's what functioned with Yuji, so it should function the exact same with Megumi. Now, this is primarily going to help both Megumi's ability to grow as a sorcerer, as well as his curse energy control, but it will still be rather useful because of the things that it should grant him access to, but at the very least, we can say his curse energy control and his curse energy reinforcement would get a buff. Furthermore, he should also have the memories of everything that Sukuna had done in his body, which is going to be important, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. I mainly just want to use this to go over the lower end assumptions before we get into what these memories should really grant him. Up next, Megumi should be getting a pretty big buff towards his curse energy. However, I don't think it would actually...
Yeah, for the curse energy control, that is a big thing. That is a big thing. Though, once again, it really depends, right? Do you think Megumi's stat cap carried over to Meguna? You know what I'm talking about? Because, like, you know how in Universe it's well established by Mei. Well, it is. I'd say literally just Mei, but it's established by Mei, and clearly Gege is using Mei to tell us a fundamental fact of the universe. And you can see it implied in other characters like Nanami and stuff like that. Ultimately, while you can do your physical body plus cursed energy, after a certain point, it runs out. It is not like Dragon Ball. Though Dragon Ball kind of implies maybe there's stat caps that improves your face physical form, but at least with Ki and Dragon Ball, you can always get stronger. Always. Goku has been clipping and clipping and clipping and clipping and clipping and clipping and clipping just by getting more Ki. Goku's physical physique hasn't changed that much. And not just like on an arsenal sense. It's not like he's gotten taller. It's not like he's gotten more muscle mass. No, he's legit mostly the same as he was since like really the Namek saga. That man hasn't changed in like the last 15 years. He's literally, he may have gotten a bit leaner. That's about it. But if anything, that's a loss of muscle mass. But ultimately, in Dragon Ball, the more and more Ki one gathers, the more and more Ki one's able to attain through training, the stronger they'll become. There is no soft cap. Or not even soft cap. There's no hard cap. But in JJK, there is a hard cap. So the question with Sukuna is, can Megumi, thanks to Sukuna using his body at that peak, at that pinnacle, can he perform the same things that Sukuna did in his own body, since Sukuna may have been inhibited by Megumi's own soft cap or hard cap? Maybe, because the thing is, though, it's hard to assume that if that were the case, say Sukuna was limited by Megumi's hard cap, right? Like, he had the insane amounts of cursed energy. He had 20 fingers worth of cursed energy, but ultimately, he could only reinforce himself up to the limit of Megumi's body, and that's why he seems to get such a drastic stat and speed amp once he goes into his true form. Because the physical body gets better, the soft cap gets removed, and he gets his own, or Megumi's hard cap gets removed, and then he gets his own hard cap, which is much higher than Megumi's base body, because Megumi's body is a lot weaker than Sukuna's true form. We know through Yuji, even if you can have your body used beyond the hard cap, or your hard cap is what Sukuna can do with your body, we know with Yuji, ultimately, in spite of how many times Sukuna controlled him previously, no matter how long it was, he could not access the same level of speed, potency, and physical ability that Sukuna did in his own body. I think even in spite of how powerful, how dangerous, how legendary, and how amazing EOS Yuji is, I think it's ludicrous, not even talking about the musician, ludicrous to argue that Yuji, by EOS, Awaken, tweaking off 9 black flashes, is moving as well as 15 fingers Sukuna and Shibuya could. I think that's ludicrous to say. I think it's ludicrous to assume that, because I think 15 fingers Sukuna would still wash that Yuji. 15 fingers Shibuya Sukuna would still beat the brakes off of Yuji. Absolutely. EOS, final Yuji. I'm 100% in that camp. Because I think Sukuna can just use the body better. But the question is, But the question is, how much of an amp? How much of an amp does it come to? Because I feel like Liberated Yuji is weird. I feel like what Liberated Yuji is Awakened Yuji, and also he just has better physical stats. And at the same time, just considering how Meguna deals with Liberated Yuji, and then by proxy Awakened Yuji, then again, admittedly that's true form Sukuna, I think ultimately the leaving buff to your base stats doesn't actually do that much. Or at least it's not to the point where you can actually reach Meguna's level. So I can't say just because Meguna or Sukuna was using Megumi's body at a level where he could physically combat Satoru Gojo whenever they went hand to hand, that Megumi is now at that level of like physical strength and reinforcement and curse energy application. But he's probably somewhere higher than he was before. That's the thing. I feel like every single time I'll just be saying that he's somewhere higher than he was before. Because he has to be, because of course he got stronger, but like, how much so is still so weird. Like, is he now Yuta level? Or somewhere lower, or somewhere higher? I don't know. Let's see.
Be as big as the buff that Yuji got in 214. Now, a lot of people have been saying that the buff that Megumi should get from Gen 3 from Sukuna's body should be the same level that Yuji got, if not an even greater level, because of the fact that he had the full 20 fingers of Sukuna inside of him. Why is there no way for me to make that not sound wrong? However, I don't really think that is the case for a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons is we don't really know when Sukuna got all 20 fingers, we just know that he did before the battle against Gojo, we don't know if it was a day before, we don't know if it was the same day. And while yes, Megumi did have the 15 fingers of Sukuna active for a full-on month, I don't see why Sukuna being active would buff the amount of curse energy that Megumi would get. Like, it would buff the...
Now this is an interesting idea. A cursed energy buff. I would go more, like, I wouldn't argue for the cursed energy buff, though I can understand why Flame says some people would do that. I'd argue for the physicals buff, like the application of cursed energy, but the cursed energy amount is different. Honestly, I would say it's even kind of hard to argue Yuji got a cursed energy boost from leaving Sukuna outside of the same boost I would argue Megumi got. Hatred, negativity, darkness, evil, like just in his core. Because that's what produces more curse energy. I think ultimately all of Sukuna left Megumi. He has the residuals because his body was literally scarred in a certain way. But I don't think he has like. Actually, no. He may still like Yuji still technically be a Sukuna finger, kind of, probably. So he should have some lingering buff. But curse energy amounts, that's like weird, mad unquantifiable. I'd say he's probably like Yuji's probably just a finger. But then again, it really depends, right? And I can see why people would be like, well, one, he had more of Sukuna's curse energy inside of him because he had the full 20 finger buff for however long, and two, he was in full control the entire time, meaning that curse energy was accessible and being used throughout Megumi's body way longer than Yuji's ever was. Because ultimately, if we think about it in the grand scheme of things, despite Yuji having Sukuna inside him for longer, we know that Yuji never had access to Sukuna's amounts of curse energy. Never. Like, he never was able to tap into the raw gallons upon gallons upon gallons of raw Sukuna. Let me not. I was about to make such a horrid joke. But he does not have the same access to the raw amounts of Sukuna juice that Sukuna has. It's only accessible to the body of Yuji when Sukuna is in control. The personality comes with the power. So, while Sukuna may have been on a rampage for like 30 minutes in Shibuya, which I think is actually kind of long. I think it wasn't actually that long in the grand scheme of things. While he may have been on a rampage for like 30 minutes, Megumi was under the control of Sukuna, and his body was accessing the full reserves of Sukuna's curse energy for at least a month. At least a month. So I actually wouldn't be shocked if he did get a bigger buff, and then again, we ran into the same issue. It's unquantifiable. I just assume Megumi's curse energy control got better because it's so used to wielding that much curse energy at that high of a level. Because it had been doing so for months, or at least a month.
Curse energy control and his body's understanding of that curse energy, but it shouldn't really buff the curse energy itself. That's because the fingers are still going to be around either way. It's also more importantly established that the reason why Yuji got such a massive buff back in 214 is actually for a different reason. Because Urame questions why Yuji got such a massive power buff after Sukuna left his body, because that shouldn't have been what he should have gotten after just having some Sukuna curse energy residues, and Sukuna explains because Yuji is one of Kenjaku's experiments and is the son of Jin Itadori.
That's
and that he was born with one of Sukuna's fingers inside of him. As a result of that, he ended up getting a much stronger body and grew as a much stronger vessel. So while Megumi would most certainly get a buff from the curse energy residues, it wouldn't be anywhere near as big of a buff that Yuji got back in 214. And the final thing that Megumi should have access to now that he has been the vessel of...
And a big thing about 214 Yuji, I call him Liberated Yuji, but technically you could just argue he's Awakened Yuji. He has the spiral eyes. They go away pretty quick too. But like, he had the spiral eyes for a moment when he was fighting Sukuna in that moment. So it wasn't just Sukuna leaving his body. Like, at first when it happened, and for the longest time, I called Liberated Yuji kind of the same thing that happened with Naruto once Kurama stopped trying to eat him. Or like, to erode him. Ultimately, a lot of Naruto's chakra, this is highlighted when Naruto begins training for the Rasen Shuriken. Kakashi, in his own head, he doesn't actually say this to Naruto, but Kakashi, I think, says Naruto has about 4 times the chakra amount that he does. But then Kakashi says, you would have 100 times the chakra I do, if it wasn't for the fact that a majority of your chakra is going to you suppressing the Nine Tails, feeding your seal, constantly being used in order to make sure the Nine Tails doesn't erode your body from the inside and destroy the seal. And thusly, I equivocated the same thing for Yuji and Liberated Yuji. But the main reason Yuji got such a massive, insane, crazy amp was because a lot of his own cursed energy, a lot of his resources, his bodily resources were going to suppressing Sukuna inside of him. But with the spiral eyes being included, and that being the sign between awakened and regular, then I think ultimately maybe that isn't the case. Maybe none of Itadori's base energy was being used for suppressing Sukuna, and ultimately he just got that much stronger because he literally awakened, if only temporarily. I don't know. It's vague. Let's see. Please!
Sukuna is the potential of Sukuna's curse technique being etched onto Megumi, similar to how it was etched onto Yuji.
Yeah.
However, this one is a little bit more debatable, at least in my opinion, because we don't really know when Sukuna's curse technique actually got etched onto Yuji, nor do we really know the circumstances behind it. We don't know if it's because Sukuna used it once in his body, we don't know if it's some certain amount of time that needs to pass, we don't know if it's because Yuji was literally born with a Sukuna finger inside of him. We really do not know. All we do know is the first time Gojo checked, Sukuna's curse technique wasn't etched onto him yet, and eventually before the battle against Sukuna happened, the curse technique was etched onto Yuji, but we don't know when it was fully etched onto him. So effectively, it could take anywhere between a few weeks and 7 months for the curse technique to fully be etched onto Megumi, which means there is a potential chance that he doesn't actually have the curse technique. However, basically this is all the things that we can say with near certainty that Megumi should have as a result of being Sukuna's vessel, which those things are, he should have a much greater understanding.
Oh, he also should have, well, oh, there's a reason he didn't mention the 10 shadows yet, because they may be separate. I get that. But yeah, that is a true to form wombo combo, if you will. It is a top of the line, dangerous, diabolical state to be in. Because with it, wow, that being the case, yeah, it's a little bit funky. You kind of have to argue that and that alone, because the 10 shadows are vague. They're a little bit too vague. Shit, he's right.
Of his curse energy as a result of Sukuna using his body for so long, he should have a much greater...
See, this is what happened. My brain will immediately leap into a new topic without touching the previous topic. Shrine. Should Megumi have it? I always, at least in my opinion, the reason Sukuna's curse technique was etched into Yuji is because he literally used it a lot in Yuji's body, and specifically while wearing Yuji's face. And I think, ultimately, Sukuna used Shrine a lot more... Actually, maybe. No, because how many domains did he cast? Well, in Yuji's body, he only ended up casting, I believe, 2 domains. The first one against the Finger Bearer, and then the next one against Big Raga. But he used domain expansion upwards of, 5 times in Megumi's body? Or 4 times specifically in Megumi's body. And then, of course, he used it later when he was in his true form, but that's obviously true form, not the base body. So, I could see a pretty decent chunk. Like a hefty chunk of Shrine actually being etched into Megumi. Could he use it? Possibly. It would probably be even weaker than Yuji's. Because I do agree with Flame. It's highly likely that ultimately a big factor in Yuji even getting Shrine in the first place is because he had that Sukuna finger sealed into him. But then again, that is kind of just headcanon on our part. Because Gojo says, regardless, not knowing that a Sukuna finger already existed in Yuji, that yeah, Shrine will be etched into you, Buckaroo. It's part of your destiny. So, who knows? Let's see.
Well of curse energy, even though it wouldn't be as big as the buff that Yuji got, it would still be a rather big buff, as well as the potential of having Sukuna's curse technique etched onto him. However, if this is the only things that we can really guarantee, why are people saying that Megumi is now one of the top tiers in the verse? While this is a pretty big buff, this wouldn't be enough to put someone in the top tiers of the verse, especially considering pre-Megumi being the vessel of Sukuna, he was barely top 20, if that. Well, these assumptions mainly come from people...
He is not! Can I name 20 characters stronger than Shibuya Megumi or Killing Games Megumi? I do think. All 4 special rates. Sukuna. All 4 disaster curses. That's 9. Yuji. Maki. Toji. That's 12. Hakari. That's 13. Ryu. 14. 15. Uro. Kuro, 16. Oh no, can I not kick him out any further? I don't think I can kick him out any further. Kenny, 17. 16 or 17. Shoot, I already lost count. I need 3 more. Naoya. Naobito. And Curse Naoya. That's kind of cheating, but that is 20, I think. I'm not going to repeat that list. Because I can't think of anybody else. Takaba. Yeah, Takaba. Angel? Probably, yeah, Angel as well. At least the original incarnate Angel. Yorozu. Okay, yeah. We're good. He's definitely not. He's definitely not top 20. Yeah, not Killing Games fight Megumi. I still think I'm missing some people, but he's not top 20. Let's see.
Taking the next steps based on the building blocks that I had just established, which is going to be very important to establishing how powerful Megumi could be now. So with those building blocks, what can we build off of them in order to make Megumi even more powerful, and try and get a better idea of what a stronger high-end end-of-series Megumi could be? Well, one of the first and easy things to establish is the fact that Megumi more than likely has enough curse energy experience, as well as domain experience, to make his barrier at least closed barrier.
Yeah.
The reason why people assume this is for 2 reasons. Number 1, the reason I already established, which is the fact that Sukuna has been in charge of this body for basically a month now, and all the experience that Megumi will be getting by proxy. But the second reason that people assume that is because of the fact that Sukuna used his domain a total of 5 times within the final battle. 3 times against Gojo, 1 time against everybody else, and then 1 time against Yuta in Gojo's body. which by extension, all the experiences Sukuna had in using a domain expansion, Megumi should have been able to feel, basically becoming muscle memory for him in a similar way to how they did the soul training, which by extension should allow Megumi to upgrade his domain to finally having a closed barrier at least. Now, the at least part is very important because it is very possible that Megumi could also know how to make an open barrier domain as well because of how many times Sukuna used his domain, and that's just talking about that final battle alone. For all we know, Sukuna could have activated his domain several times during the 1 month time skip, as well as done several other things with the body in order to get more and more used to it and get himself stronger. We don't really know that, so the best we can really do is assume he's at least used the domain 5 times in Megumi's body when he was in charge.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? The only reason I'd be hesitant is because Yuji didn't know how to do open domain. But then again, Yuji never had a domain before. He didn't even know simple domain. But Megumi knows how to activate a domain. And his was already, like, a lot of people, myself included, were kind of on the idea that Megumi would be an open barrier user. Like, with the way that his domain worked while it was incomplete, a lot of us were, like, kind of banking on this idea that, oh, yeah. It's incomplete now, but once he gets that experience, he's going to be open barriered because it's already kind of halfway there. So you can definitely argue it because it does make sense, especially with how many domains were used in his body, specifically open barrier domains. And honestly, I personally, this is just a straight headcanon of mine, I headcanon that the reason Yuji's like domain shell was so big is because he was literally one step away from making it open barrier. He just missed that one crucial step to make it open barrier. Because if you'll remember, Yuji's domain was huge. It was huge. It was gargantuan. One, because of his lack of refinement, and two, because I think muscle memory wise, he's much more used to opening large scale domains because that's what all Sukuna did in his body. So it could be the same thing with Megumi, where he may have an open barrier domain, or he could have just a really instinctively large closed barrier domain. Either one works. Let's see.
So assuming that Megumi has at least a closed barrier domain for his domain expansion is a pretty good assumption, which should also give him a sure hit by this point as well. Not just the barrier itself, but also a sure hit, because the sure hit is engraved into the barrier. So Megumi should be able to make his Shikigami now all sure hits, which can be very dangerous considering the Shikigami that he should still have alive, which is the next part that I'm going to get into, that Megumi should now have access to Madoka Deer, Piercing Ox, as well as Maharaga. Now, Maharaga is a little bit iffy, but he should still have Piercing Ox as well as Madoka Deer, mainly because Sukuna had tamed them inside of his body, and as we saw earlier when Sukuna summoned Nue, the summons then Shikigami that Megumi had tamed, Sukuna had access to, so it should go the same the other way around, other than maybe Maharaga, who is kind of weird because of one of Sukuna's statements at the end of the battle, where he states that he no longer has his Maharaga, which kind of implies Megumi and Sukuna have 2 separate Maharagas. But
which is still so, like, I hate it. I hate that stupid, that's stupid. Oh, that's stupid. Dang it, why? Why would you make that statement? It's so random. It's so, like, you could have said anything else. You could have literally said anything else. But it had to be, my 10 channels technique stop working. Because, like, that's the only wrench. Because Flame's right. Flame's ultimately right. We never have to see Sukuna tame Nue. Or Divine Dog. Well, Divine Dogs come pre-packaged. But Nue specifically. We never seen him tame Nue. Remember Orochi? The main reason, at least in the redraws, that Orochi or Nue is as big as it is because of Orochi. You want to know who destroyed Orochi? Sukuna! This is because if you'll see in the redraws, for 215 in particular, I think, Nue has Orochi's symbol on him. Because Orochi was already destroyed. So it implies you can destroy shadows, and if someone else gets access to your shadows by taking over your body, you then get access to even their destroyed shadows. So Megumi should have access to Raga, but then Sukuna acts like his technique and Megumi's are different, which makes literally no sense, but it's the statement, I have to consider it. And everyone has to consider it, and if there's just a huge sledgehammer, it takes a sledgehammer to Megumi's knees, essentially. Because we don't want to just call him a Raga merchant, a Maharaga merchant, but he low-key is, he's a Raga rider. So if he doesn't, Raga kind of, how do I put this in a way that sounds bad, but not too bad? Raga is the difference between Megumi being top 10, arguably top 5, and not even being in the top 22. Not being in the top 20 still. More than his domain, more than anything else, it very specifically is the existence or lack thereof of Raga. Raga is just too good. He's too good. He's needed. And if Megumi still doesn't have him tamed because of that stupid nonsense that Sukuna said in that one chapter, I think it's 268, then tough nuggies, bro. But let's see.
It is sort of weird. Which also leads into the potential of Mahoraga being totalitied into other Shikigami as well, now that Mahoraga was killed by Gojo.
Yep.
So some of his Shikigami, or at least one of his Shikigami.
But here's the thing, right? The big reason why I'm so hesitant to be like, yeah, it's only Raga. It's because if you remember, I don't think Ahito was a Wells Abyss summon. It wasn't. It was a combination between Orochi, Nue, and Madoka Deer, along with Morning Tiger. So, like, whoops. All those Shikigami should be gone too. Because they were all fused into it, and specifically not with Wells Abyss. It's kind of like how if Divine Dog were to die, it would just get totality into another one. You couldn't summon a new Divine Dog. If it dies, it dies. The one totality into the other. So they could still perish. Same thing with those. So honestly, that'd be kind of whack. Though if you could fuse them all together, that'd be pretty good. But let's see.
Might have the properties of adaptation, which can be terrifying depending on which one it was. But they would also gain the physical strength that Mahoraga had access to as well, which is even more terrifying. Speaking of, this should also grant Megumi access to all of the knowledge on how Sukuna used 10 Shadows, which is including smaller variants of the 10 Shadows in order to use their abilities like he did against Gojo by calling upon the abilities of Max Elephant and firing out a piercing blood made out of water. Or the less stable version of his Shikigami that Sukuna used against Yorozu, which by extension if they end up dying will not kill the true Shikigami because they are only partially summoned, they aren't fully there. Oh, and he should also be capable of using RCT and the Black Flash, which I kind of forgot to mention early on, but he should be capable of using both of those considering how much Sukuna was using RCT and the Black Flash in that fight. But this is getting more and more into the Sukuna memory section, which should grant him something else, assuming he does have the possibility of Awakening Shrine. Which that is the capability of using the world-cutting slash. After all, he should have all of the memories that Sukuna had, and he was awake for all of it, which means he should know how to cast the world-cutting slash, but more importantly, he might potentially have access to the even more deadly variant, where it is not held down by the binding vow that Sukuna made to add in 3 more chance.
Now see, that's the big thing there, right? Say he does have Shrine. Can he do it though? Can he does he count? Because the thing is, right, the way World Cutting Slash worked, it would literally be impossible for Megumi to do it. He would have to make another arm. Because it is unless and it's debatable. I'm not sure, and I haven't really been able to come to a consensus on this. Do you guys think the World Cutting Slash is this and then pointing with another hand, like pointing with a third hand that I don't have? Or can you do something like this and then point? And then the World Cutting Slash will still activate. Because if it's the former, then Sukuna as Megumi literally cannot do it. And then by proxy, Megumi likely couldn't do it if he's still under the effects of that binding vow in particular. But if he does have Shrine, and he does have access to World Cutting Slash, then for all intents and purposes, yeah, he should have access to a full rain one where he can just think and it'll do it. Or at least once he gets to that level of mastery with Shrine, because presumably we don't even know if he has Shrine. But
instead, he might have access to the one where it just requires the Enmanton hand sign because of the fact that Megumi never made that binding vow. So worst case scenario, Megumi...
Now, I do believe it was stated, I forget, he pulled all those panels I don't think they correlated, but I think, I don't remember, and my computer's currently exporting something, so I don't want to go and check that, but I think what happened was, no, I think it was just, I think all those extra stipulations were in order to use the no-look one. I thought the Edmonton hand side was like an extra limitation on top of the 3 chance. I thought initially, if he hadn't made that initial binding vow, the extending the target of his curse technique wouldn't have even needed anything. He would have just done it on command. Kind of like how Nobara doesn't really have to do anything special for her curse technique extension. Same thing with Nanami, they just need to declare it is their curse technique extension. I thought the same thing was with Sukuna, but maybe the Enmatan hand sign was always there, or always needed, not just a stipulation given by the binding vow. Let's see.
Does have access to the World Cutting Slash, he just does need to do the chance instead of not needing to do the chance, which either way is still pretty terrifying because all that makes it so Megumi needs to just add in 3 more words. But now that I've gone over what is possible for Megumi to have access to, I want to talk about what I think the end of series Megumi that we see has access to and how strong that one is. Now I do want to note this, and this is very important. I am not talking about Megumi as an adult or Megumi after he's achieved his full potential. Okay. All of these are very potentially possible for Megumi to have access to in the future, and we just aren't going to see it, but it will take more time than we see till the end of the series for Megumi to have these abilities. Right now, I just want to talk about what Megumi is going to end this series already having, rather than what is Megumi going to have in the future as an adult. If you want to know what Megumi will have in the future as an adult, just basically pay attention to the entire video and assume the high end, and that is what I think adult Megumi will be like. However,
yeah, a full potential adult Megumi, if everything we say and theorize is true, is the strongest. It is. It is. If we assume that he can use his body to the peak that Sukuna was using it, then that means he's relative with Gojo on physical stats. And if we think that he has access to the full capacity of his technique and a hypothetical totality Baharaga, then he has the best curse technique in the verse, even better than someone like Yuta. And someone like, well, out of the remaining characters, literally just Yuta. He would also have Shrine at full mastery on top of his own perfected domain expansion, making him essentially Yuji but better. Like, he's literally the strongest character alive. If we go with adult time skip, everything mastered, he's much stronger because he got everything Megumi. He's that broken. He'd have two of the best techniques in the series. The curse technique or cursed energy efficiency to utilize it, a cursed energy boost, and the raw physicals to keep up with it. Everything would be way too scrumdiddlyumptious. But let's see.
That I do think that end of series Megumi is going to have access to is a couple of things. Number one, like I talked about in the video before, I think he's going to get a pretty large CE buff. He should have even better control of the CE thanks to Sukuna being in his body for so long, and he does have the potential of Shrine being etched into him, but I don't think he's going to awaken Shrine quite yet. I think that'll take a bit more time if he does have Shrine etched into him at all. However, I do think assuming that he's going to have a closed barrier domain expansion is very fair to assume up to this point, considering how natural these skills kind of get engraved onto the people, and considering Megumi's already insane potential, I do think he just has access to a closed barrier domain right now. I don't think he has access to an open barrier domain. I think assuming that is a bit too dangerous and a bit too risky, but
yeah, especially with how it happened with UG. But again, he used the open barrier more. It's so like hypothetical. I don't blame Flame. Yeah, I really don't blame Flame because it's so hypothetical. It is so hypothetical. You need to think front, back, up, down, left, right. Is that a cheat code kind of ways to deal with that like weird aspect of it? Whether or not it be open barrier to closed, I think closed is a good safe assumption. It makes the most sense, or at least a stronger, even stronger, more refined and complete one. But let's see.
Saying it's a closed barrier domain, I think is fine. So now his domain is going to have a sure hit. Megumi should also have access.
Flame, if you're here. What is this? I've heard it before. I know I've heard it in your video. What is this music from? Did he put it? I'm gonna double check. Did he put it on the screen? I love this music. I may cop this for some of my own videos. What was it?
To all the memories on how Sukuna used 10 Shadows and be able to replicate those abilities for himself if he were to try to. I don't think it would be too much he'd have to train himself for. I think he could already do it. It would just be some things he'd need to actually test out himself in combat. So I think he's already capable of doing that. So where would I put end of series Megumi if I were to rank him among the characters? Well, I do think he currently scales below basically all of the heavy hitters, including Yuji. However, I do think he is above everybody else who was in the Sukuna Assault Squad. This is because of a couple things.
Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, you know what the weird thing is though? It depends. Did he end up giving him the remains? I'm not sure if he did. But hold on. In fact, can I go back and listen? Let me. He'll probably mention it. But Kusakabe and Miguel might be weird runs for Megumi because I think they have the weird speed feats and the weird physical feats and the statements and the weird scaling that they could possibly put Megumi in a pack. Miguel especially because of how he nerfs Megumi, and Kusakabe because of auto domain targeting. If he doesn't, but then again, he would have a closed barrier domain in this case, and that would be enough to overwhelm Kusakabe. Ooh, same thing with Miguel. So never mind. Yeah. Everyone else. That probably makes sense. If he has a closed barrier domain, that would make sense.
Being how much of an amp he should get from being Sukuna's vessel, as well as the fact that he is now as a closed barrier domain, and he has access to all of the abilities that Sukuna used as him with 10 Shadows in specific, which
okay. So yeah. If we're giving remains, yeah, he is clear of literally everybody else, and you can make a pretty solid argument. It depends. Outside of Yuta, I think he would literally, if he gets Raga off, or whatever Raga would be totality into, whether it be the rabbits or piercing bowl or divine dog or anything, then I think the best play would be for Megumi to round start summon that totality and then let it do all the work, because only Yuta could like insta one-shot it. Yuji and Hikari would never be able to defeat Raga. Ever. They simply could not. They don't have the scale of the attacks or the potency of the attacks. They're punch and kick merchants. Maki, I love her. But she's a Soul Split Katana merchant, and that's gonna be enough against Big Raga. And it's only Yudu who has Jacob's Ladder who can legit turn the technique off and then go to lead Megumi. If a need be. But other than that, yeah, he is pretty much above everybody.
I think should all conglomerate together to make a stronger Megumi. If I were to put Megumi in any tier, I would probably put Megumi around the same level as the Disaster Curses at the end of the series. While I don't think he's pretty high up, I do think he is high enough to be in the same tier as the upper members of the Disaster Curses, which is a pretty good upgrade considering Megumi beforehand was losing to Dagon. So he's now gone from weaker than the weakest member of the Disaster Curses to being on the same level of the stronger members of the Disaster Curses, at least in my opinion. Now this is all me speculating, you guys can have your own opinion on where you guys think Megumi scales. Do you guys think end of series Megumi is stronger than I'm saying in this video? Do you guys think he's weaker? Do you guys think that there is some other way to make Megumi even stronger that I didn't even talk about in this video? I'm curious what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'm gonna see you all later, hope you all have a good day, peace. Obligatory potential man statement that needs to be stated about the fact that Gojo says that Megumi has the potential to reach the same level he does one day. Anyways, bye. Now up next, I do want to spend some—
Whoa! Not me. Not me. Sorry for— I will let you play out that ad afterwards. After I'm done recording. But W video by Eternal Flame. Yeah, I like it. Once again, he did it. I'm gonna see how 100 does it, but then I'm gonna do my own. He did it how I would. He did the low end, he did the bare end, he did the mid end, he gave an honest reason for the mid end, and then he did the high end. That's perfect. That's literally how they're doing it, because you kind of got to do it that way. All right. It makes me a lot more— thank you, Flame. Thank you. It makes me a lot more happy and comfortable with how I'm gonna do my own video. Good. And I do agree with him. Literally, he said nothing I disagree with. No, like literally nothing. Like I was trying to think, like
maybe he said something that I slightly disagree with, a certain type of way.
no. Flame's just goated. But if you're always seeing this video, please make sure you check out the link to the original video. The link to it and Flame's channel will be in the description down below. If you guys enjoyed this video and made it all the way to the end, please do me a favor and leave Shadow— I was gonna say Shadow Striker, but I've done that one before. Leave Scion of the Shade. You may be like, whoa, what does that mean? Scion is spelled S-C-I-O-N. Scion, which would be the sun, and then I think we can spell those. Of the Shade. Not Shadow, specifically not Shadow, because I've done Scion on the Shadow before. Scion of the Shade. S-H-A-D-E. Scion of the Shade in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a page down below where you support me for Zoas 1, get them on. These are exclusive videos, early content, and more. So now become a member of the channel for Zoas $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Those perks will include the live reactions, wherever the series I happen to review, ad free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 Patreon or a $20 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below where you drop 5 beans for a short video, 3 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That with a Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Zara, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Brandon Payne, Glacier XZ, and G Prosper. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 members: A+A, Ignil Lind, Kevin Encarnacion, Midnight Lord 21, and Sean. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 members: Fine, Austin Wimberly, Uchiha, and Yuki Ally. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members: AZ Void, J Warrior, and Robbie Uchiha. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $10 patrons: Overlord Zero, Waki Munoz, and Idem Okami. And I'd like to give a final gracious gargantuan thank you to our $100 That Guy with a Pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.